Okay, I'd like to call the Monday, June 9th budget hearing meeting to order, please. Clerk, call the roll, please.
Alderman Ballard. Teeman.
Here.
Payton. Edgecombe.
Here.
Sapienza. Osadnik.
Here.
Lukosius.
Here.
Marino.
Here.
Mayor Kolowski.
Here. Any public comment in Laos? Any public comment online? Yes, sir.
Before we get started, I would like to apologize to my colleagues for last Monday's episode on the council floor. I took the request to be more personal than it shouldn't have been. I was reminded by an old alderman that this is not my budget. This is the mayor's budget. And I just report what's given to me. And I acted unprofessionally towards you, Alderman Lukosius, and I just want all of you to know I can do better. And please accept my apologies. And Mr. Mayor, we're back to your budget. It's all yours.
Okay, I do have some notes here, so I want to make sure I get this right. First of all, I just want to say that this is a great meeting. This is a great idea, that we all now are going to get on the same page, share the same information, and have a healthy discussion about this. Number two, this is not personal. There's no personal attacks here. There's no personal agendas or anything like that. We're having a healthy discussion so that we all know as a group how this budget comes together. There's been a lot of unnecessary heat put on some department heads and some aldermen, and the heat relies with me. This falls on my feet. This is our budget as a team, but it's ultimately, like Tom said, this is my budget, but we are a team. There's been a lot of discussions and stuff. You know, I'm going to go through this real briefly. These are just my thoughts. You know, budget cuts. We're making these massive budget cuts. Well, last year we had expenditures, estimated expenditures of $73.9 million. This year, this budget you have in front of you, $75.1 million. We're spending more than we did last year, but we're having these massive budget cuts. It's just not true. There's no services being cut, programs, taxes. Let's talk taxes for a minute. Property taxes, everybody got them in the mail last week. Okay. Tracy, City of Peru's tax rate actually went down 2%. Of that entire bill, 4% of that goes to the City of Peru, and 100% of that goes to pensions, period. Police, fire pensions, that's it. I personally went up $600. I have to make two choices. Raise my revenue by $600 or cut my spending by $600. That's the decision a lot of people are going to have to make. Property taxes. We're being proactive rather than reactive with this. Okay? There's no sewer separation cut. There's $2.2 million in the sewer separation. Streets. Poar subdivision is being done, $250,000. Plank Road, 5th Street from over by St. Val's. There's 8 blocks over there that are getting replaced because of the sewer separation. There's $400,000 in there on a line item for our streets. Sales tax is one of the biggest drivers of our city. One of the drivers of our city. We lost Coronet, Joann's, and Big Lots. But we also gained Quick Trip, Popeyes, Ollie's, Five Below, and some small businesses. So again, proactive versus reactive. United States of America, credit rating was AAA 3. It is now AA1. Credit rating for Peru is been stable. We're fine. The number one reason for the United States' credit rating, debt. The rising debt in our country. Peru's debt in the last 4 years, because of this collective team, has gone from 23 million to 19 million. That's $4 million down in debt. Meanwhile, we've spent over $40 million in improvements to our city. And also, this team, again, acquired over $10 million in grant funding. So those are some of the talking points. And lastly, this is what I've been talking to Tracy for about 2 years now, and I think she's tired of me talking about it. I've been preparing for this year for 2 years. And my number one reason for this is real simple. Credit card debt. Credit card debt in this country. There's 340 million people that live in this country. 74 million are children. 266 million people have credit cards. There's 800 million credit cards in this country. That's 3.5 credit cards per person. The debt in this country 4 years ago was $800 billion. It is now $1.1 trillion in credit card debt. The spending has not stopped, but they're not paying for it. And if this thing hits the skids and hits the brakes on retail, this will hurt our city of Peru, and we will be ready for it. Last thing I'll say is, bottom line, if I'm right, the city of Peru is going to be just fine. Just fine. If I'm wrong, and I hope to be wrong, we're going to be really in good shape for 2027. So again, we're going to dive into this now. I'm going to defer to Tracy now, and she can take on hers, and I'll sit down there, and then we'll defer to Tom, and we'll take on this project line by line.
I don't have a formal presentation this year as I've had in the past couple of years, so at the request of a change in meeting structure, we'll just go to Q&A forum now.
Okay, Tom, would you lead us, and we can start with whatever page you guys want to talk about. I would recommend.
Actually, Mr. Mayor, I'm just going to let you go ahead and do that.
Okay, that's fine. We'll start on page 7. Anybody got any questions about?
Why don't we start on page 1?
Well,
On page 1, I just have a couple of questions. We're trending down on, and you just explained why you wanted to trend down on what you thought the revenues were going to be in sales tax, but you went down $500,000. Can you explain your reasoning there?
absolutely. I think it's a little less than that. Let me go to my page 7 where I have most of my notes on this. Sales tax, yeah, I brought that down 55,000. Brought down video gaming down, miscellaneous tax down, brought them all down significantly because if you run them side by side.
Well, the miscellaneous tax, you just mentioned that one. Last year it was $95,400. This year you're budgeting $22,000.
Where are you at?
License and permits, miscellaneous licenses. What's the explanation for that drastic reduction?
Where is that, Trace?
Page 7 in the.
Page 1.
What page are you on, Jim?
On mine, it says page 1.
Miscellaneous licenses is actually gaming, and our actual is 96,000. The year before was 95. We changed the way it was. Everybody that had a gaming machine that had a large increase, it did not get deferred. So 2024 and 2025 are actually overstated. So it's kind of a correction, but I don't know that it should be to that degree. So I can take a closer look at that one.
That one just kind of stood out.
Yeah, and see, it's a combination of the gaming machines and the liquor. So if you go back to audited 2023, you see that it's 54,000 and 7,000. Then we recategorized it because everybody that was that had gaming was then required to get a liquor license, and the gaming went up. So I'm kind of thinking now, and this is on me, this is not on the mayor, the 22,000, I'm gonna go back and take a look at that, but I know I have an error from 2 years ago, but it is not, it was about 40,000 when we changed the way we did that. So it's coming around. So I'll revisit the 22,000. But as you can see, the liquor licenses went from 8,000 to 68,000, now this year to 46,000. So it's a combination of the two. I was actually thinking that we should just combine those two accounts, which may be a lot more realistic, but
If I could make a comment, I think you're on page 7, right, Tracy?
yes. Licenses and permits.
All right, licenses and permits. In that total column of licenses and permits, we've taken out approximately $109,000. If we go up to general taxes above, we've taken out another approximately $1,000. Those are some big chunks. That's almost $320,000 right there in those two areas of general taxes and license and permits. That's an awful lot to be assuming that we're going to lose.
Yeah, I explained that. I took all that down by about $360,000 off of estimated revenues.
Why would you estimate them down on taxes? History has shown the worse the economy, the more people gamble, the more people drink, the more people do all those kinds of things. That's what history has shown us. That's not over the last 2 years, that's over the last 100 years.
Tracy, if I can ask, is that tied at all, you think? Did you guys do a projection on, I think they call it the Amazon rule, with the law that changed on January 1st with the sales tax for purchases on Amazon?
Yes, it changed January 1st. We saw our use tax. So January, we're at a 3-month lag. Our April use tax was down 40,000. So was our May, as well as we just got our June taxes today. Use tax is not yet in there. I only got sales and home rule. So that difference, though, is made up in sales tax, which could be attributed to why our sales tax has continued to be strong. So it's an offset. Local use tax is budgeted at 375. That's actually too high, because now that whole law changed January 1st, that should probably come down.
I didn't get a chance to research this a lot because I had just found out about it. I didn't understand it, and I'll be honest, the ruling doesn't make sense to me. But an example that was given to me was J.C. Whitney, U.S. Auto Parts. LaSalle benefits, again, they get that sales tax because they're considered the generating sale point in LaSalle, even if someone sits in Peru and they order online from their address in Peru. My question would be, how does that affect the Walmarts and places like that if someone from outside of the Peru city limits does their Walmart order online? Is it going, are we getting that, whereas before we might not have been? Because if they're ordering online, was it going to where they're ordering from?
My understanding, it was based on the zip code.
Okay, thank you.
I believe what you're asking is it's based on zip code. So if you live in this zip code, you get it. You know, like Governor Pritzker's, I reached out to Senator Resin's office. They're talking about $1.50 on every package delivered to your home. And I said to Senator Resin, I said, this is not good. I don't think it's right, but if you're gonna do it, that $1.50 should stay in that zip code, just like everything else does. But whether they do this or not, I don't know. Because all that money, that $1.50, I believe, is being designated towards Chicago. And I think that should stay in each zip code, and then we use that money for our roads that allegedly these UPS trucks and stuff are tearing up.
Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry, but we skipped from 1 down to page 7, and I had a lot of comments on page 7. I'd like to jump back on page 3. On page 3, we were talking about taxes. I'm gonna start at the very beginning, general taxes. You projected a $200,000 loss from last year in general taxes. You just got through talking about taxes. Some things, for instance, license and permits. How do we figure that we're gonna lose $100,000 this year in licenses and permits? I'll ask that one, and I have a couple others for that same general fund summary. How do we figure we're gonna lose $200,000 in general taxes?
So general taxes includes property tax. Property tax is a pass-through. In audited 2022 and 2023, property taxes was not in that figure. The auditors changed that and said we have to recognize our property tax as revenue, which is why if you go to the body of the police and the fire departments, that property tax is then an expense. So it is a change in accounting principle with
That's
that.
about 800,000 or 900,000, isn't it?
Yes, it's
Okay, we're talking about
$990,000 this year.
$200,000 decrease in taxes. Let me go on to the next one too, if you will. Here's one that I really was interested in. We got about a $210,000 decline in investment income. What's investment income, since we're just at the summary page here? Would you explain investment income? Exactly what is that we're losing $210,000 this year?
Yes, certainly. So investment income is how we are investing our CDs. So as you know, our overall cash balance has decreased quite a bit, as well as I'm sure you listened to the news recently, interest rates have really come down. We were investing CDs last year at a rate of 5%, and we managed as a city to earn $1.5 million last year in total investment income by staying on top of that. When we projected our fiscal 25 budget, interest rates had not jumped up yet at that point, so you're talking about a fluctuation of interest rates. When I put this together, we're hearing interest rates are coming down, interest rates are coming down. It wasn't until about 2-3 weeks ago that then we're hearing, no, now the Fed is going to sustain it. In my opinion, interest rates are extremely volatile, and we have less cash to actually invest than we did before. We have to keep a lot more liquid. Our capital assets, projection of 17 million and 5 million in the general fund, I have to be able to come up with $22 million of liquidity. I have to be very careful how we invest our CDs and the timing of their maturities.
Oh.
So it is mostly, probably, I'm being a little too cautious because I was just told by one bank to renew, we were going to be at 3.9%.
Along with that though,
so
Tracy,
in comparison,
I don't mean to jump in on you, but I know everybody else has a lot of questions as well. We've also talked a lot about cutting back on our reserves. I believe, what was it, how many days did we cut back? 30 days? Could you refresh me there? How many days are we cutting back on our reserves?
I have not addressed that at all, but my recommendation was in October of last year that we change our reserve policy to go from 180 days to 90 days. I was speaking with a Baird professional, and I have a list of probably about 40 to 50 other municipalities in Illinois, as well as our own John Vazzetti, who agreed that 180 days is very conservative. I did not yet pose that. That's a post budget.
Okay,
And I still recommend that we change our reserve policy from 180 days to 90 days. That requires a brand-new ordinance.
if we
And
do that,
I will still recommend, and I want that to be
if
forthcoming.
we do that, if we change our reserves from 90 days, now we sit up here every 2 weeks and we read off expenditures, and we have about a $2.5 million probably average. That's just off the top of my head.
Mhm.
$2.5 million average every 2 weeks. So if we do that, that reserve, that 90 days that we have accumulated into our investment income, that investment income is definitely going to drop. It's going to drop 90 days worth, which is about 12 weeks worth of investment. 12 times 2 is $24 million. $24 million worth of investment at 3%. Figure that out. Was any of that considered in here when you did your $210,000 reduction in investment income? You can see where I'm going with that. That's a considerable amount of investment income if we reduce it. If we do reduce it, where is that money headed? Where will it be sent to? Will we be reducing that in 1 year, 10 years? How long of a period of time are we going to reduce that and see lower numbers in investment income? That's enough for
What page you guys want to move on to now?
$75,000 is where we were at this year, and I believe that was like 30 new homes, and the Point and Pohar subdivision had a lot to do with it. Other things are just like fences and that kind of thing, and my understanding was the projection of new construction was going to be down about 50%. So if I need to take that up, I'd have to defer to Eric if he thought. There's also, the other reason is because building permits used to go on a fiscal year basis, and that has been changed to a calendar year basis. So fiscal '25 actually received a lot of extra building permits in addition because they had to do it in the calendar year, which would have been a lot of them in January as opposed to waiting until May 1st. So we kind of benefit from a slight increase in that, but then it levels out in the following year, and you'd see a slight decrease before you have that trend of them all being calendar year.
Any other questions on like general taxes, license permits, charges for services, fines, or investment?
Yeah, I see we have
income?
we have a reduction plan for even farm cash rent. Why would we
The
have
farm cash rent is because the year before last, the contract was based on a 6 months, and now they're based on the full year. So we receive 1 full years in a different period. So it is an accounting period change. So I deferred 9,000. So you'll see that reduction for 1 year. Let's go back to audited 23, and you'll see that audited 24 was too high by that amount. So that's an accrual-based accounting change. We're still receiving the same farm cash rent.
Okay. But from 23, we were showing about $7,000, then it went to $25,000, then down to
Are we in 60 or
24,000,
10?
then to 18,000. I mean, we're talking about the same amount of acreage, I believe. We haven't really disposed of any.
Jim, what line are you on exactly? I'm sorry.
I don't know, somebody gave me a
Farm cash
special
rent.
copy of the budget, I think.
Yep.
Oh, you bumped up to page 9.
So you're at 25, 23, and down to 18. It's because of 1/2 of one of the farms was put into audited 2024. Then you'll see the jump from 6,998 to 25,000. That's the acquisition of the GAF property. So McElhaney is farm cash renting that property up there, so that's why there's an increase. Half of that we received should not have gone into 2024. So I have to do the correction.
Okay,
So the reason why it's 18 is because the correction is getting done with the proper deferral based on the new ordinances that were just approved a few months ago and the payments that were made. That will go back in fiscal 27 to that full amount.
okay. Yeah, this was all under other local sources of income.
Yes.
And there was one under there that's not, it's not a big deal or anything, but they've got down here baseball diamond usage and a reduced figure on that. And it seems like our parks are thriving right now. They're, tournaments and all kinds of things, and they're only allocating like $5,000 for budget year fiscal 26.
Adam? Adam?
Yeah.
So I think what the 5,000 even is, IVCC's, contract and LP's contract. I don't think, I don't think travel ball usage is put in there because that varies from year to year. So I think this year we had maybe, I don't know.
Where would that be
1,000.
classified?
No, it could be classified there, but the income of that, I don't think we can, from what I understand, is guarantee that that's gonna be here
Right.
year to year.
And that is a big, just in general with revenues, if it's not guaranteed, it's hard to project something if you don't know that it's coming in.
Okay,
So we know the IVCC.
that's basically the two schools. Okay.
Tracy, on some of these, I'm looking at this and just, unless I'm looking at it wrong, but we would see that if we had a budget in the 4 years you're showing that had budgeted and actual, correct? So for instance, if we had, where's he at for the baseball diamond ones? So for the baseball diamond ones under the audit, it was 89.91. And then for a year actual to date was 7. But if we had the budgeted for year 24, it probably would have said 5,000 also, because that was the actual contracted amount, right? So I mean, if we had it that way, we would see that we're actually taking in more in those areas than we're budgeting for. So
Something as a general observation on this. I've seen a lot of things just be taken down. And just to give an example of that, this is very small dollars. If we look on page 8, since we're on that page, I mark this simply because it's very unusual. It says sale of graves. Last year it was 14.4, this year it's 10. It's down by only $4,000, I know, but whose superior knowledge says we're gonna have less graves?
Are we running out of land? Are we running out of land up there, or do we have plenty of graves for sale?
We have a lot of land up there. We have land to expand, and there's been a lot of talk of that. But we do have
I don't
grave
think-
sites.
Okay.
We do have sites for graves, but why did we? I'm just trying to point out a general tone of this. You see, by cutting everything, let's don't argue about graves.
Jamie, you want to help us out with this one a little bit?
How that was estimated, I was not part of that process. We have discussed, I've working on utility billing right now, and my next step was the cemetery, as I've talked to Jeff and Trina about. I know off the top of my head, and we've discussed this, Your Honor, is that the cost that we're selling graves for is very low, and it should be looked at.
Also, something we have to look at on that also is the columbarium is full. So that's gonna be the next thing we're gonna have to look at, whether we're gonna build another one of those or what we're gonna do there. And then the expansion of the cemetery. I can't remember, I know Eric and I talked about how many graves are actually left up there. I think he said something like we have 3 years worth still left up there. But, the discussion's gonna have to come in place where we're gonna start looking at another columbarium because the one we have now is full and sold out.
Jeff, didn't we originally plan for 2 columbarium?
Yes. I'm not sure about that.
Yeah,
So,
I'm pretty sure we did.
so we're probably gonna have to be looking at that now because the one is sold out full, so.
I didn't mean to take time on that. That was
No.
just an example I threw out there.
And I can tell you that last year, the budget was 10. Oh, this year it's 10. Last year it was 15. So as you can see, last year I budgeted 15 and this year it's 14.4. We came down. So if you're looking at the trend, it went from 25 to 14. So if you're just looking at numbers, we went from 13 to 23,000 to 25,000. Then we go down to 14,400. So 10,000 isn't, so it was, in this case, I'm the one that brought it down thinking, well, if I budgeted 15 and it was only 14.4, I over budgeted last year. So some of these smaller amounts.
My purpose of that, as I said earlier, wasn't to dicker about the $4,000, is to point out what seems to be a trend on this budget to just cut, and we are ignoring some of the major things, and I just don't understand the tone of this, cutting everything the way we have, and I don't see the purpose of these deep cuts.
Well, Mike, the sale of graves, that's a cut in the revenues.
No, sir, let's forget the graves. That's $4,000. That's $4,000. But it went down 4,000. Forget the graves. Gee, I'm sorry I mentioned that. That's a dead subject, so to speak.
Mr. Mayor, if I can real quick, I won't say the graves. I'll just mention that when you're talking about these things, you have to understand, I think what we're missing here is Tracy's trying to get us to a point at the end of the year that we're not coming in on our revenues under budget. So she's trying to put them in a spot to where we don't at the end of the year, if we have all these, and all these add up. Yes, it's only $4,000. You have 4,000 here and 24,000 here. They're small items, but if you're off on every one of those, all of a sudden you're down $300,000 in your revenue sources off of what your budget said, then we're off. And I'd rather be over on our revenues than under.
You know, I've been talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars that we're under on. This is very unusual. If you look back and take a look at the whole thing, we're hundreds of thousands of dollars under recording of revenues.
Right.
Not forget
Okay.
the $4,000.
So, Mike, when we do the budgets and you're projecting income and expenses, it is always a good rule of thumb to project your income to be less, be more conservative.
Exactly right.
All right? So when you're looking at this and you asked about the tone, think about the city has taken a conservative look at their revenues. That's all I'm gonna say about it. All right?
Thank you. Thank you, Alderman Payton. They have taken a conservative look, more conservative than I've ever seen in a budget before since I've been sitting here. Way more conservative. That's my concern.
I think it's a good concern. We can be conservative.
I was just gonna try to get in front of a little bit of confusion, and it kind of goes to Mike's point as well. Tracy, the copy that you sent us last week, there have been some changes on that versus the copy we received today. You're projecting general taxes increase of about 440,000 in revenue. So maybe Mike's also looking at the copy that was sent last week.
No, I'm not.
But small increase in police, and it looks like the general fund street program's back in, adding 400,000 to expenditures for streets, and then demolition costs of 40,000 in buildings and grounds. So could you address those items, please?
Well, I think following the indirect communication of the council asking for the street program not to be eliminated, Mayor has put 400,000 back in to the budget that was previously taken out. There was always 250,000 to do the Pohar subdivision roadway. And 400,000 was put back into next year's street program. There was a lot of confusion in terms of it was already approved, it was put out for bid, we can't cancel it. Yes, we can cancel it. We're going to take a year off in roads. Then we can't take a year off in roads. We're getting a lot of pushback from our residents. This isn't the step we want to take. Headlines, Peru is cutting roads. Let's take care of our residents and let's address this concern and put roads back in. Where do we still balance a budget with roads in that way? And
Where are we getting to 400,000?
it's with an increase
Revenues on
in
sales tax.
taxes to be flat as opposed to, I
Sales tax.
Where is it
Correct, yes,
reflected
yes.
on this budget? Would you give us a page and line, please?
page 7.
Page 13 is the streets.
What?
No, he's asking for the revenue, or you're asking for the general fund street program expenditure?
So,
If you look at the budget that we were sent last week, we're on page, I can't turn my mic on, there's too many other people with them on. Now I got it. All right, so if you look at the budget that was emailed out last week, under general sales tax on page 7, it was $7.5 million. On this current one that we just got today, it got adjusted to 7.9. That's the $400,000 right there. It also, under other miscellaneous tax, the end of that, general taxes, a week ago it was 225,000. Today's is 265,000. That's another 40 that got added. And actually, in my notes from going through it, I thought dropping almost $500,000 off of sales tax was relatively conservative. It was troubling to me. I get it that we want to be more conservative than we are. We don't want to over budget. At the same time, I don't know, the lines aren't getting any shorter at Walmart when I try to go there. And I know the packages aren't stopping from Amazon. Every time I come home, my wife has ordered something. But I understand wanting to be conservative and not wanting to over budget. We're still 55,000 and some change less than we got in fiscal 25. But the short answer to your question, that's where that $440,000 is. It's just a change in the numbers on the budget.
well, thank you very much, Bob. One of the things that we all up here get calls on, and that's when they walk out their front door, what they see when they walk out their front door. And that's something that I'm trying very, very hard to protect. It was very confusing to today just get this budget and have to go through that and compare it with, like, and
Where do we wanna go next, gentlemen?
I have a question on that, well, on the page that I'm looking at. Apparently I have an outdated one, but the intra-fund transfers, I just need an explanation on this, a little bit confusing.
Income or expenditure?
It'd be page 8.
It'd be page 8 on today's budget. On last week's budget, it would have been page 2.
There it is, yeah, page 8. Interfund transfers.
Anyway, the question I have, there's a $1.85 million deficit shown there. I believe this was from the ECAS project. And anyway, is that an infrastructure project? Is that considered an infrastructure project?
After the preliminary budget and the utility fund capital projects that were budgeted put us into a negative cash flow situation, it was determined that we could not stop the ECAS. We did not want to impede the progress of that growth at the cost of $850,000, as well as $1 million for the water tower paint was already underway. So we are basically funding those two projects in the utility fund from the infrastructure reserve, which is within the general fund, but it's not necessarily designated only to a general fund capital project expenditure. It also could be used for that. So it is a transfer out of the general fund and a transfer into the utility fund to fund those two expenditures.
Okay, that's the reason I was asking. I couldn't find out where it was transferred back.
It should be in the revenues of the utility fund. So you would need to go to either well, it's probably easier for you to see, and the easiest place for you to see that is in the summary on page 6. Those expenditures are in the expenses. And on page 6, you'll see the utility fund summary has an infrastructure reserve transfer of 1.8 million. So it's a negative to the general fund and it's a positive to the utility fund.
This is a simple one. It doesn't have much to do with the budget, but did we not pay the municipal band last year? There's a blank there, and we always pay them. I'm on page 14.
You know, I don't, just from what I remember anyway, I don't think we did, because they typically submit a report to us saying who was there, what to pay certain people, and I don't think we ever got that I didn't get it anyway, unless Tracy got it. Right. Yep.
Where would you guys like to go next?
Garbage fund, how about that? I'm on page 17. We've got a slight drop in garbage fund. It's only amounts to $1,000. how are we charging that if our revenues that we take in is slightly less? Isn't that a consistent thing as long as we've got a contract with them? You know, if we pay $10 today, we should be paying $10 next year if that's the same contract. I'm on garbage fund, page 17. Why is there a difference in the numbers? And then I have one other question on expenses on motor fuel.
Talking about this line right here.
Yeah, I mean, in total, we're budgeting $3,000 more. The budget is primarily focused on our major funds, which are the utility fund and the general fund. Our garbage fund is relatively insignificant in the grand scheme of our budget. So I'm not fully understanding.
Well, I just thought it'd be a simple, if you charge this amount today, this year, last year, you would charge the same. I've got a question about
Well, I do know
construction.
that we have a lot of problems trying to right now reconcile what we're being billed with the addresses. And that's been an ongoing process, working with Republic now for 2 months.
Okay, I'm not sure if you covered this before or not. This is also on page 17, under expenses, line, it ends in 34. We've got 43,000 last several years. We've been in the hundreds of thousands and actually into the millions. This year we have $43,000 worth of expenses. Last year it was 459,000. This year we have 43 on construction street maintenance. Is that part
That is
of
the,
what you were
that's
talking
the
about?
motor fuel taxes. So you chose to do the Water Street in addition to the 2024 general fund street program. So what we do is we pay the bill, and then we have to turn around and we put that expense into the motor fuel. And then we get audited on the motor fuel, and we have to make sure that we have all the supporting, so it's actually a cash transfer. The 43,000, I believe that is budgeted this year, is related to Route 6 striping and repainting that we would be running through our motor fuel tax program, because you have to have special approval before you can put anything through your motor fuel taxes. That's where all of the revenue related to what we earn has to go. And even though it's in our bank account, we can't just spend it. We have to spend it we have to get that approved first.
See if I understand this. So basically, what we've done, the previous year was about 250. Last year it was about 450. And now we're at 43. That's because the 450 is half of it, only half of it should be charged for last year and half now. Is that correct? Is part of that? Okay, then I just don't understand it. That's okay.
Hey, Mike, if you don't, I talked to Eric about this and asked. So he explained to me that the way that the motor fuel money comes in, it's restricted. We have to get approval to use it. But then it's kind of the rule of thumb, or the general way we do it, is 1 year's motor fuel isn't enough to do a major project. So generally speaking, we try to do a major project every other year, so that we can bank that and we can do a bigger project with it. So yeah, the reason that there's money, that a small amount of money, like Tracy said, is because we're using it to finish the Route 6 striping. But that's the only project we're trying to do with the motor fuel money this year, because we've tapped it out the last couple of years.
Got it, Bob. Thank you. One other quick question. Under revenues, I'm on page 18. On revenues, Peru Mall, that's under TIF district, Peru Mall. We're estimating going from $27,000 to $54,000. that's a good estimate for the way most taxes went up.
That's provided to me by Jacob and Klein, and those are their estimates of the increment that we're going to receive. And then we pay a lot of admin fees accordingly as well.
Scott, you want to add anything to that for the TIF?
I'm sure Jacob Klein looked at the numbers of the actual taxes themselves, but that's probably just you know, an inflation adjustment plus you know, maybe a reassessment on those properties that are located in that TIF.
It's a very unfortunate situation that this mall was gift wrapped as TIF and there's been nothing done with it. It's very frustrating. And it's a difficult situation.
Once again, I'd like to go, I'm just about done here. I'm on page 19. If we go to the very bottom of page 19, we've got non-operating income. Once again, it's income from investments and income from bond account. Income from investments last year was $700,000. This year we got a budget of $350,000. I'm very much concerned that that's about about cut in half.
Well, I can tell you that right now we have 15 million in our enterprise funds cash account. In fiscal year 25, we wrote checks for $5 million from matured CDs to fund the Route 6 project. So with lowering of interest rates being projected, I think that is actually kind of a reality of where we're going to be with that reduction in cash.
Tracy, would you please keep us posted on interest rates as we go along this year, okay? As you find out.
Yes, and anytime we make a reinvestment, we always get approval on what amount we're reinvesting, which is usually $250,000 max, to make sure we're in the FDIC approval, insurance. And the terms and the interest rates are always approved. And
I realize we approve those every time, but I mean, just keep us posted on what you may hear, even though it's not a time that we're going to be reinvesting. If you hear interest rates are going up, we'd appreciate just a little.
absolutely.
note. Thank you.
The most recent one we did was Central Bank was 4.2% last month. We renewed it. We could not get a rate close to that from another. There was 2 other banks where I then deposited the money at Hometown into the money market to keep it liquid with all of the other budgeted projections. But yes, 4.2 is what we it was early May that we did a reinvestment at.
Which line or what page would anybody like to discuss next?
I'd like to ask a question in regard to buildings and grounds.
Is it income or expenditure? Income or expenditure?
This year, I believe we have.
Page 14.
We have 60 kids in summer help, Jeff, is that correct? 47? I see next year we're gonna budget almost $200,000 for summer help.
This year's actual, 192,700, budgeting 194,500. The ordinance usually is $1 over minimum wage.
I know back in the day, when wages were $3.25 an hour, it was great to utilize these kids, but now you're paying $16, $17 an hour, and there's a lot of riding around and a lot of extra work for the supervisors to keep track of the kids and where they are. I'm just wondering if that's a number, if it's 47 or whatever we have, if that's a number that we can trim back. And then the other question I have in regard to this, that I did receive a phone call on, a resident of Peru with a 16-year-old who was not given a job, wants to know why we're hiring kids from LaSalle and Oglesby. Can anybody want to take that?
I'll refer that one to Kim.
I'll only state that, I mean, I didn't go through all the applications, but I know a few years ago, especially when numbers were down of applicants, that we had to reach out to some applicants that were not from Peru because we had so few that applied. And then our typical protocol has been, if they worked out well, you know, their first year with us, then they would be highly considered for the next year. So that's kind of how the trend started, with some kids being out of the area. So if they'd worked for us previously.
Well, what I'd like to see happen for next year, if we're going to have summer help program, to put it in the utility bill or something and offer it to the citizens of Peru first. You know, make that a priority for us. I think that's only right to do that. And if we have some specialty people that we can't live without, then deal with that on a one-on-one basis. But let's take care of the kids from Peru.
Yeah, that's certainly what we have done in the past. We would always give preference to the Peru applicants first. So I mean, we can, if we have some that are reapplying next year from out of the area, that's certainly also a discussion we can have.
Okay,
But yeah.
very good. Thank you.
Jeff, would you consider that we have too much, not enough, cut back? What would be your recommendation along with Adam's?
The areas we absolutely have to have them is the parks. We have to because of all the ball fields and keeping up the grass. Cemetery, we need to keep that looking the way it is. We can definitely cut back on some streets and stuff like that, but, you know, that leads me back to the summer projects that we do with painting, weed whipping, all that kind of stuff. Tax is what we have for our guys, but, I mean, if we cut back, we can cut back in streets and look at it that way.
Adam?
I'll just echo what Jeff says as far as parks. I think every year we're continuing to build on anything, you know, parks project related. So ball diamonds, if we don't have X amount of kids, we're not going to get it done. We're not going to get these things done that we need to have done by the time everybody leaves, or on a weekly basis. So,
Yeah, the big struggle is at the end of the year when they all leave to go, is trying to keep up on the mowing, trying to keep the cemetery looking good, the parks for the ball games that are coming in when all the kids go back, and then it's on us to get the ball diamonds ready and stuff, and it becomes quite a bit there at the end of the summer, or the end of July basically is when they start leaving, so.
sports, you know, these kids they fall sports, but they're playing sports in the summer to get ready for that stuff.
Yeah, speaking of sports too,
pretty tough,
when
yeah.
you look at it, it's not like it sounds like a lot, 47 kids here, but a lot of times, a lot of them aren't here. They may only work 2 or 3 hours a day, because a lot of them are in football and different things like that, so they can't even start work till noon, or some of them don't start till 10. So they're not all of them are here 8 hours a day. So just so you know that too.
Is that number just kids, or sorry, the adults that help mow at like the airport and stuff like that also? So they're included in that also?
They're included in 47.
Where would you guys like to go next?
If we could go to streets.
Page 13.
I've heard some figures tossed around, and for new vehicles and machinery last year, supposedly we spent $3 million. Is that accurate, Tracy?
All funds or? I
Yeah.
can- So in the utility fund, we had new vehicles of 260,000. And we had 650,000 of vehicles in the general fund. So a total of 1 million in new vehicles. The street sweeper was in the budget, but it was then deferred to this year.
Jeff, our expenditure for salt. That's another one. Awesome. You taking it home, or what are we doing with it?
Take it home.
Actually, last year, we cut it back quite a bit. If you see where it's at for last year, it was 99.
Your mic, Jeff.
99,000. That number that's in there right now for budget purposes is what we have on contract. So if you take 100% of what we have, that's that budget number. Last 2 years, we only been taking 80% of what we said we take. That's why you see that number decline. So I have to put that number in there because I can't tell you next year how much snow we're gonna have. So that's where that number comes from. So our maximum contract budget is that number.
I guess then the only other thing that we had was the discussion on the radios, which was a high-ticket item.
Yeah, that would, the radios, what we're looking at, and hopefully I've been talking with Nick quite a bit on it, we might, with moving all these antennas and stuff around, we might be coming up with an extra voter, and we won't have to spend this money. So, but what that was is to separate us two, because sometimes these guys are working and doing really important things on the radio, and I don't want one of the public work guys come on and say, we need blacktop over here, you know, and these guys are locking in lines. So that was a purpose of separating those radio frequencies. And right now, working with Nick, I think we may be able to make that a lot cheaper. So we're waiting to see when we get all done here, if we're gonna have an extra voter. If that's the case, it's gonna cut us down quite a bit.
Okay, thank you.
What new equipment is that 500,000? Did we mention that?
That's the sweeper. The sweeper got pushed into here. The only vehicle we have budgeted to purchase this year is gonna be one 3-ton dump truck if we can find it. That's the only thing that I have budgeted for vehicles this year.
I went up to the garage a couple weeks ago when the street sweeper came in, and I talked to John up there, and I expressed my concerns, not concerns per se, that the fleet looks really good up there. I mean, Jeff could say, we've invested in some new equipment, new trucks, and I emphasize it to the team, take care of it now. I mean, that street sweeper is immaculate, and in 3 months, it should look really nice. And they are. All the equipment, street plows, the 1-tons, they're all looking really good up there. You know, now that the fleet is, we don't necessarily have to replace it, we need to take care of it to keep it running longer. Like I said, the street sweeper alone, it's a lot of money. If you guys see that thing, it's amazing. The interior cab, I get the outside, Jeff's gonna be beat up and things like that. That's what it's designed to do. But that interior of the cab should be immaculate every day. Take care of what we have.
The far south side residents there have mentioned that to me, because that street sweeper has been around and really did do a nice job.
It's taking a break right now, so.
That's a sore subject right now, as maybe, I don't
It
care.
is
I'll-
back at standard right now. We have a few issues with it. It's throwing a bunch of codes, and air conditioner quit working, the dump box quit working, so it's all back up in standard right now, so hopefully it's back by Wednesday, so. Under warranty? Oh, definitely. It was expressed very hard under warranty.
Yeah, Alderman Teeman, you know, when Jeff called me on this, and, yes, it's under warranty, but that's not the point. Okay, we invested a lot of money in this machine. and Jeff gave them an earful, but they haven't heard from me yet. We don't spend that kind of money on a brand new facility, a piece of equipment, and then we're out of condition for 7 days. It's not acceptable.
That was the second one I got, because I know John did the same thing, especially when it went down, he called them. And we were trying to get another machine to get here, and they didn't have anything, so.
Bouncing around, anybody else? Andy?
Stephen, real quick, under the information technology miscellaneous, last year it's, 20, and then this year it went up. Is that Drago system you've been speaking of? This year it's projected 118,400. I'm on page 15, miscellaneous expense, the bottom.
So, no, the 118, there's no Dragos included in there. Dragos is gone to utility.
Okay.
So this is for 365 licensing. We've got 20,000 approximately in warranties. We've got 37,000 in professional services on various projects, 17 for surveillance equipment, camera stuff, then another 8 for networking upgrades. That's what that 118 comes out to. No problem.
Where would you like to go next?
Well, we haven't picked on the police at all, have we? Who wants to go there?
We will start with, that'll be on page 11. Does anybody have any questions on page 11, lines? I'll start with one, and clothing allowance. We've got clothing allowance, which is 26,000. That's contract, correct?
That's correct. $1,000 per officer. There's 26 one.
Have clothing allowance other.
Other clothing allowance would include those things such as new officers that are hired that are unpredictable. And just looking at previous years, that's why it's the amount it is. Knowing I'll probably hire 1 to 2 per year, and it's about $5,000 to outfit each officer.
Chief, when you look under new equipment, most of the way down there, you see the first 2 years we had nothing, and you had the 162 and then 57. What things are getting included in that?
That was reference to the new building. A lot of new equipment was lumped into the price of the building for those years. And then 24, I couldn't tell you what it was for all of it, but I'm sure it had to do with different equipment for, like, more so the technology up there. I'm not sure what all of that entailed. So it'll stay right around the $50,000 to $60,000 mark. A lot of it would include like body cameras. That's at probably initial 100,000 was the initial big buy of the body cameras. Most of it comes back in grants. We just can't show that on here.
That's what I was getting at there. I thought that those fell under there.
Yeah, we just haven't
How
got
much
it.
of that, so that's over 4 years?
5. At the end of that 5-year contract, we can submit for all of the money to come back. So we get it all back. It's just an expense up front. Most of it, I'm sorry. It's about 80%.
Okay, thank you.
Chief, how many squad cars do we have?
I just counted them, Jim. 26.
26. Okay, we have 26 patrol officers?
We do.
Okay, how many command vehicles do we have, or total vehicles in the department?
26. That includes the command vehicles.
Oh, that does?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And just so you know, they're not all brand new. We do have many 2014, 2015, 2017 vehicles. We run them to up over 100,000 miles now. I can show you that this here. We have all the mileage. And the take-home program, when it started, it's always expensive to start, as you know, buying multiple cars. But if you look at the R&M vehicles over the past several years, we've saved close to $90,000 in maintenance of vehicles having a program like this.
With the officer's ability to take cars home, do we allow people who live out of town to take cars home?
The only people we allow to take out of town if they are on call, subject to callback, like a detective living close, or somebody who is right on the border. So people in Oglesby do not take home. We don't have anybody in LaSalle anymore. We have one in Dalzell because it makes sense. They're right next to Peru. And one detective in Dimick, and then I live in Spring Valley.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Chief,
The only, I just had one other question in regard to the drug fund. Well, it's a magical fund. We never know what's in the drug fund.
It's in one of her revenues up front. Not much. You guys have asked me to purchase vehicles out of there the last couple of years when I need vehicles. So I don't know. When you add all the funds together, they're broken down into different categories. The drug fund, impound money, that type of thing, all goes into that fund. So I believe it's down now that we purchased a vehicle out of it now into like a 40,000 maybe.
Well, we always used to like it when we were told that we're buying a new vehicle, but don't worry, it's coming out of the drug fund. So I was just curious how much money we had in there.
Yeah, we bought a lot of those. Don't worry, it's out of the drug fund vehicles. So I just bought another one. So don't worry, it's out of the drug fund. Yeah.
Chief, two questions on that. First, you mentioned something that took effect before I was elected to this position. So we do have, with the law that changed for the impound fee, the city of Peru does have an ordinance for that?
Yes.
And what's our fee that we charge on that?
$250. However, with the Safety Act and other things that have been implemented recently by the state of Illinois, you cannot use it as much as we used to.
Okay.
So we're trying though. We're getting back into that.
And then the second thing was, often when I'm walking up there, you have some cars, and this isn't to mean that you have too many cars. I'm just curious if they're considered line squads or what, but you have some that seem to be sitting in the parked in area. Are those, in case you have one break down, are they people that don't take home cars? What are those situations?
Generally, the ones that don't take home are in the garage area. The ones that you see out there are either the people that are working, that are parked out there, and not in the garage, that they're just inside working. You'll see a couple that are out there that are stripped. So they might still look black and white, but they don't have any other decals on them. One of those we're going to make a utility vehicle because we did jockey around a lot of things to help this budget because we did need several vehicles, and instead of purchasing those, we moved quite a few around. So one of those will be a utility vehicle. The other ones generally we try to sell to other towns because they're in good enough shape to give to, a smaller department that might have part-time officers or that type of thing. But that's generally it. It's worth more to do that than a trade most times.
Thank you.
Yep.
Chief, one last question here in regards to new vehicles, new equipment. Last year projected 244, 234. This year it's 75, which is a significant drop. Is that one new vehicle or is that two?
That's one. That's one, but that's all outfitted. So that's the computer, the cameras, the everything that goes into it. That's the total for all of that. For the cage, for the radio.
Yep.
That's the total. For
Thank
all
you.
Of it. Yep.
Staying on the subject of the cars, how many cars you say we have?
26.
26?
Yep.
I have, on my total, we have 33.
That's because some of them have been taken out of service for the newer ones to come in. So the total on the road is 26. The other ones are no longer, this is the updated list right here.
But 31 of them have gas carts.
Well, I'll have to look into that.
But how? We don't have 26 cars. We have physically 33 cars in the city of Peru that we have to plate, tax, and everything else. 33, not 26.
Okay. Then I must be missing something. I had him give this to me today so that I could show who's driving what, basically. And then I know that we still have some in the lot that we still have to utilize and move around, but they're not being used.
And the 2 cars that we ordered and bought last year have not been received or put in service yet?
They're in service this week.
This week?
Yeah.
From last
When you
year?
buy a car, yep, when you buy the car, you have to bring it somewhere to get it all outfitted, which takes months.
And the 2 cars we ordered this year, were they replacement cars, or they're replacing 2 old cars? Or
Correct.
we're
We
add-
don't add to the fleet. We haven't
not
added to
adding
the fleet in years.
Because I've got, from you have according to this sheet, you have 19 cars that are dated from 2020 to 2025. That's 19 total cars.
From when?
From 2020 to 2025.
That we bought?
Well, the date of the vehicle. You have some here from 2013, 2014,
Yeah.
15.
Mm-hmm.
But you have, the majority of your fleet is updated from 2020 to present.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, we're almost, like I said, we're almost to the point of all of them now being updated. We would need 4 this year in order to be done, in order to not have to ask for 4 every year. We're getting the 1. We're converting an admin vehicle into a road vehicle. We're taking our utility vehicle and putting it as an admin vehicle. We're putting one of the old squads into that utility vehicle position. So 100 and some thousand mile squad out there for somebody to use in case one goes down. And over the course of the last 3 or 4 years, we've saved almost $90,000 in maintenance fees because of this program.
So we are anticipating 1 more new car this year.
I have 2, one which is budgeted and one which was bought out of the drug fund.
We will need to collaborate because I give the auditors our list of fixed assets, including all vehicles. And
This would be the one. I was just talking about the ones that are currently on the road. We have a 2011 Crown Vic that we still utilize. So, I mean, that's still going to need, that was the old ESDA vehicle. One of these vehicles was the ESDA vehicle.
But we have to keep insured.
Yeah.
33 vehicles.
I get you. I was just going off of what they.
Okay, I just want to make sure that we're not
Correct.
wasting our money insuring vehicles
Nope.
that we don't have.
They're all up to date, and then the 2 will switch back.
And I would have to write them off and dispose of the asset if we don't have them, which.
Correct.
Okay.
Answer everybody's questions about vehicles? Operating supplies, 3/4 of the way down, 53, 29, 24,000, 38,000 year to date, and we're budgeting for 35,000. What are operating supplies for the building?
That would be all the office supplies, all of the paper, all of the, different things that are utilized. We have 1, 2, 3. We have about 8 admin positions that utilize different operating supplies. We have, the patrolman. We use file folders, paper clips, all of that stuff, pens, pencils. I mean, there's a number of operating supplies. Tracy, I don't know if you can help me on what else gets coded under operating supplies. There's quite a few.
Toilet paper,
Yeah,
cleaning
I mean,
supplies,
anything from Dresbacks that we get,
coffee.
all of that. Flash drives, yeah. No, not at all. We go through a ton of flash drives. A lot of we do have a revenue from the mobile training unit who utilizes our training room. Every month they pay us $500 to utilize that, so that can offset some of our operating supplies, but we don't get that money, so it doesn't show that.
Okay, well, I think I have just one more in case anybody else jumps in. We have R&R buildings. We've gone from 3,000 to 31, 14, 17 year to date, and we're budgeting 26,000. And that's for repairs and maintenance to the building. $26,000.
Yep, things break. It's a big building. There's a lot in it. It's almost 4.5 years old now, and that's why they only warranty things for a couple years. Things break constantly. So, I mean, we've started utilizing our own people to fix things. We do a lot of our own stuff, and the stuff that we can't, we bring them in. $8,000 of that was under a water heater. So we had to up
Yeah,
that.
I did see that water heater come through on the disbursements. I mean, no, and it's not, how can a water tank go bad in 4 years?
If you ask Mike Meyer, who's a plumber, he will tell you that's what they're made for and that's how long they last. So in 4 more years, we'll need another $8,000 or probably more. They're not made to last. Because I asked the same question.
Did we, okay.
Did we what?
It just seems to be a 4-year-old building and it's already needing constant repairs. It doesn't make any sense to me personally.
I'm not a mate. You want to help me out here? I mean, for real. It's,
You know, I
do it.
can't speak to specifics about what's going on at the PD, but I can tell you that we did the Lighted Way project 4 years ago, and they're doing little touch-up stuff constantly. You know, it could be something as little as doorknobs. The industrial doorknobs have gone from 75 to 160 a piece. And most of those are, you know, you hope that they last 10 years, but there are some that just go bad faster. It all depends on how many times you use them. Door hinges, same way. They've almost doubled in the last 5 years, and you hope that your hinges don't go bad, but they can. You know, I'm sure part of this is if the chief gets a rowdy suspect that comes through and kicks the wall, you know, you're looking at least $500 to get somebody in there to patch and then to tape and then to sand it a couple times. Then you got to get a painter in there. I mean, I know it's worst case scenario, but $26,000 seems like a lot, but it's really only a couple projects if something goes bad.
I think something else that goes into that budget also is your continual maintenance. Whether you're maintaining your furnaces, your air conditioners, belts, those all don't last the lifetime of a building. So those are some things like with the fire department, that's what I see a lot of is air conditioning, heater, on the rooftop units getting worked on. Fire extinguishers, I think them going, I'm pretty sure those probably going underneath R&M.
Everything in that building is technology based and it's not cheap to fix. So the heating and cooling of that building is run through a computer system. You can ask Steven, who's shaking his head. Yes, it's a pain in the butt. I mean, but it costs money to have somebody come out and look at that and fix it, or to get into that system to do that. So, I mean, we've had those issues and we've had to have people come out. Again, it's more because of that $8,000 expense we already knew we were getting from the water heater. But like I said, we've been utilizing the city services to try to help repair and do other things to not have to utilize certain services. But unfortunately, labor costs more than materials. So it's expensive.
The water heater, Sarah, for instance, the water heater, just take that one thing. Isn't that under warranty? I mean, you put one in your house and it's 6 years.
The building seems like it's brand new. I understand that, but it's been there for over 4 years. So the warranties are only good for a year or two.
Yeah,
On a water heater?
Yes.
Yeah, industrial stuff like that, you're not going to get an extended warranty on it because they know the manufacturers know just as much as the chief is explaining. With as much as filters through that water heater, you know, it probably goes through 10 times as much as what does at our house. So the manufacturer, they're pretty spot on with their warranties. They make sure that they're not overshooting it because then they're going to have affected bottom line if they're changing out half the units they put in. You know, if they give you a 10-year warranty and it only lasts 4, all of a sudden they're replacing everything they put in. So they're not dumb. They know exactly what they're doing. So we probably got a 3-year warranty on a unit that the plumber will tell you you're going to be looking at 4 or 5.
Sarah, you have a line item in your budget for contractual services. What would that entail?
So our contractual services are like Caterpillar, who comes out and services the generator every year, 4 times a year. All of our doors that are automatic doors, sliding doors, anything like that, that's a contract that we keep for a maintenance agreement for them to come out. And then if anything does break, we do get a discount.
Okay,
So
but
it's
none
worth
of
it
that
to
would
have it.
include stuff we've just been talking
No.
about?
That's separate.
Okay.
We have a lot of contracts. We have Stericycle, who does our needle disposal. We have a shredding company that comes and shreds all of our documents. We have, you know, different contracts such as that. Comcast. Oh no, the Comcast isn't in there, but like, you know, those types of different monthly. I also want to say something real quick. A lot of my budget, much like everybody else's, you can't control. I can't control a lot of this budget, but I can control my operating expenses, which are actually a small portion of this budget. I can't control the almost $1 million that goes into the police pension. I can't control the bond payments on the building. I can't control IMRF reimbursements. I can't control any of that stuff. But I can control this, you know, $827,000 that is our operating expenses. And when looking at that, I did take that down, the 13% I was asked to do. So just so you're aware, there was a lot that went into this to try to get it down, but there's just a lot I can't control.
Thank you. Anybody else have anything for page 11, police? Anybody have anything for page 12 on the fire department?
Jeff, you want to highlight, I mean, I know you made some major cuts to yours. You just, rather than go through it, just maybe hit on some of the things that you cut out of your budget.
Yeah, some of the things we understand in my budget under R&M equipment. What we're looking at there under R&M equipment is going to be hose testing, SCBH testing, ladder testing, and pump testing. Them all fall underneath what that is, so that's where that number comes into effect. Education and meetings, that's just firefighter training and the new vector training programs that we have to follow. Now, the state fire marshals went through last year and changed our entire training protocol to where each firefighter has to maintain their minimum of 24 hours of training, whether they get it in-house or out of house. A lot of this is done through our vector training resource, and that's a program we have to purchase every year, so that's where you're going to see where we're looking at safety and training. Underneath R&M buildings, part of that money that's in there is in for a grant that I have in with the State Fire Marshal's Office, which was some of that money I'll have to use to pay our portion of it, if we get it. I don't know if we'll get it or not, but I got a grant in for that. Under new equipment radios, that's also a shared grant with the Mavis Division 25. We put in for all new radios for every fire department in Mavis Division 25. And that's part of my money that I need to put down if we win that grant. The other, under turnout gear, I always put that in there because I never know what's going to happen in the course of a year. And a set of turnout gear right now is $6,000 for one set. So that's why I have that in there. I mean, if we have, for instance, we have a Karis issue again where I lost 10 sets, I got to have something in there in case that happens. That could happen in one day. So that's pretty much where mine is. There's not a lot more in mine that I can really talk a lot about. The rest of it is non-controllable by me. That's pretty much we're at R&M equipment. That's the actual testing of the fire trucks and stuff, and the maintenance of the fire trucks. That's out of my control. And some of our trucks are getting older, 06, stuff like that. So it seems like there's always something broke. So that's where that number comes from. But other than that, that's pretty much it for the fire department. There's not a lot more I have in there, unless anybody has any questions at all. I can comment if you look at, I can't remember what page it was on, but the Dimick side where we get 10,000 from Dimick. Just so I can reiterate what we talked about earlier, under Dimick, I'm also getting a brand new brush truck this year. And that's costing Dimick $269,900. So that's gonna be on them. They're paying for it and they're gonna title it to us. So that will be coming into us. So.
Jeff, just to check real quick, under new equipment radios, the 35,000. That's when we talked about that we've applied with the grant with multiple agencies, correct?
Yeah, mine was 20,000 of that, and I always leave some in there for pagers if pagers break and stuff like that. So that's the end of it.
And if I could comment on that grant, that's one that you got all the information you needed, you applied for it, but it's not guaranteed. So I can't put that grant into revenue yet because I don't know if we're going to get it. Another example of that is in the utility fund, we were awarded a $145,000 grant to replace a water main. That whole project, I think it was from 2021, was decided not to be done because the residents didn't want to disrupt the brick road. But as it turned out, last year, I applied because that money was still available. I used the Water Street water main that we replaced down there. And as you can see in revenue, we received $145,000 for a grant. Well, that money was from 2020, but I didn't know at the end of last year when we did the budget if we were going to get that money. So sometimes there's things that just come up and gets put into revenue that you can't plan for.
That was a COVID relief money, right?
No,
For Water Street?
no, that had nothing to do with COVID. It was just a water repair.
Real quick question, Jeff, maybe you don't want to have this off the top of your head, but the fire truck loan principal, how many more years do we have on that? Is it 5? 2 more years on that?
28, fiscal 28.
And your guesstimation on that truck would be? I won't hold you to it.
For $350,000. This is, I know, this is a basic engine. It's nothing spectacular about this engine. 750 gallons of water, 2,000 GPM pump. I mean, it's nothing. And if it's got a foam pump on it, that's the only thing I get because we do that on every engine we get. But it's a basic engine with no frills, and we're looking at 1.3 right now. So.
Any other questions under page 12 with fire for Jeff?
Hey, Chief, I've got a question. Under medical services, you've got 30 that's budgeted for expenditures. Is that medical services that you provide, or is that medical services that are being provided to the
NFPA
department?
requires each firefighter to get medical, physical, X-rays, and a PFT or a lung test every year, and that's what that is.
Okay, in 2023, it was close to 230, but it was actually audited at 10, and then so far this year it's at 9.
Yeah, she probably hasn't got all the bills in yet because we were just finishing it up through this year. So
Okay, and
this
education.
year we didn't do. I do X-rays every other year, so this year we didn't do X-rays, so that's probably why it's lower.
And finally, education and meetings. Are there things coming up that?
Oh, we always continue to do that, especially when we get new firefighters in. They have to either go to academy or they got to go through the basic operations. They got 2 years to get it done, and that's what costs money for that. So.
Chief, correct me if I'm wrong, but education's probably up because we're of the firefighter that's getting his advanced degree also, right?
I don't think that's included in that, is it? Ryan's stuff, that's not included in that, is it? I don't think that's included in that. That's just pretty much the new Vector Solutions program protocol we gotta go through, which is on its own $6,000, and then we start following it that way, and each firefighter's gotta maintain 24 hours now, and
Okay. I was,
So,
when
yeah.
I looked through it, I just assumed that
Yeah.
that's why it jumped the last 2 years.
it's because of what NFPA is requiring us to do now, and the state of Illinois.
Hey, I'd rather they were safe and knowledgeable than.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I like it, because now I have bones to me say, if you don't get your training done, you're not gonna be part of this, you know, so now I got back on it, so.
Yep, yeah, and you've answered my question, thank you.
We could move on to page 13. I believe we covered most of everything under streets. If there's any follow-ups on that, anybody have any more? You know, like one of the items in there is signs. I mean, we're getting pretty close to. Yeah, but because we're finally getting, how close are we, Jeff, from the street signs being all blue? Okay. I mean, you took that from 39 to 25. That's great.
A lot of that too is people.
I mean, as you can see, we're up on that bottom line of total expenses of, from year to date to now, almost a mil. Well, Plank Road is a significant amount of that, on this particular. Anybody else have anything for page 13 with streets?
I guess I would ask, you know, it was brought up that there is indeed going to be a street program now. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. 400,000.
And then I know Engineer Carls is out of town. Are some of the programs that he mentioned, some of the cuts that he was making, are any of those, or maybe he'll report at the next meeting, are they going to be brought back? Do you know? Is the street program the only one that will be?
Street program is basically the only one. Like I said, we got the sewer separations already being done right now at $2 million. So where the sewer separation was cut or said it was being cut, I'd have to ask Eric on that. You know, I'd like to point out what the street program, you know, it used to be about $400,000 a year. We took it to $1 million, and we have aggressively attacked our streets $4 or $5 million in the last 4 years. So bringing this down to 400,000, we're still way ahead of the curve on what we've done, what this team has done with their street program. Because that's what it was realistically. So again, we did bring it back. It was you know, we don't want to get behind on it, but we are extremely ahead of the situation on streets. Anybody else have anything on page 13 with streets? We'll move on to page 14. We'll start with the top layer is building and grounds. Anybody got any questions there? Move on to parks and recs, also on page 14. Any questions there?
R&M equipment, 105,000, what is that for?
That's the splash pad.
That's,
Repairs to the splash pad.
Yeah, that's 93,000 or 94,000 in repairs to splash pad, along with a splash pad door that was 7,500 roundabout number.
okay, it's splash pad, that's good enough, I just didn't know
Okay.
what it was.
And Alderman Sapienza, with that, I just want to add that the splash pad has not had any maintenance since it has been opened. This is getting it all caught up, and I believe, Adam, moving forward, we do have a contractual contract to have it looked at every year?
Not a contractual contract, but we have a list of items. Jeff and I, Justin Ambo, we've got, and Seth have come up with numerous things that we're gonna plan for going forward.
Thank you, and
Yep.
what that'll do, that'll keep that R&M number low.
Well, I know we have done repairs to different things, different spinning things and those kind of things over the years. And I've got one other question here. Under utilities, utilities are $40,000. When we get the chillers in, is that taken into consideration at all? That should be in on this budget, is that correct? The chillers should be in on this budget?
The chiller itself, yeah. As far as the utilities with the power and stuff, I don't necessarily know how that's gonna work. Tracy, do you have answer to that?
I don't have it escalated for, I don't know what that estimate would be.
Yeah, so to answer your question, I don't have an answer for that one.
Okay, all right.
Say, Jeff.
That budget will definitely go up, because that's gonna use some power. It's definitely gonna go up. But you gotta keep in mind that 40,000 or the 33,000 too is every park. All the. Yeah, it's gonna, I can't tell you exactly what it's gonna be, but I'll guarantee it's gonna go up.
Adam,
Oh, I'm sorry.
first of all, kudos to the conditions of the parks. They're in very nice condition, and we've made a lot of improvements and upgrades. Do you have any big ticket items on the horizon for any of the parks?
This year, we cut one, McKinley Park, we cut that out in request to the 13%. That was gonna be about $125,000 expense. So that's out for this year. The OSLAD grant, that's part of this coming year, so that's a bigger ticket item with the chiller and the playground equipment. And other than that, just other than some upgrades for equipment, that's about it. So McKinley Park was a big one that got taken out, but the OSLAD project is gonna be a very large expense.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Adam, just to add on to what he asked, we've talked about this briefly in the past, but Hatfield, the fencing at Washington could end up being kind of a big ticket item, couldn't it?
Yeah, I forgot to mention that. And I'm working with Alderman Marino and Parks Foreman with this too, to try to get some of that expense covered from our conversations. Maybe paying for some things that can't be, but yeah, I think a large portion of it's probably gonna be, paid for, donated time and material.
Is a lot of that stuff at Washington Park in particular that's not finished, is that gonna go on to the next budget?
Yeah, are you talking like along West Street?
Along that crooked sidewalk? there?
Yep, that is, in the construction line item from the second to the bottom.
Could you tell us what that is? That and over by the skating rink, it looks like there's long stretch that's not finished. What are those two things gonna be? We've been
Yeah,
asked quite a-
Sure, the piece by, along West Street, along the sidewalk is freestanding exercise equipment. So people, on their walks, 'cause there's a lot of people that walk that park, can do various different exercises. By the ice house, that's a challenge course for children. Kind of unique. I can't really get it. I don't know necessarily the exact things that are on the challenge course, but just different things. And a bocce ball pit.
It's a ninja
So-
course. The one by the skating rink is the ninja course. And that's all part of the OSLED grant.
Bocce ball, yep. Yep.
Anything else for Parks and Rec? Page 615, cemetery. Other than labor, I don't see a lot of increases there, Jeff.
Yeah, the only thing I have in there under new equipment is 15,000, which we pretty much run every year. And that's just, we buy one new mower a year to stay up with our equipment, and that's it. Other than that, everything else pretty much the same as what it was last year.
City garage, once again, I see the only significant increase would be labor. Moving on to finance. Anybody got any questions about finance? Information technology. This could be a limited, some of the things that you can maybe talk about, maybe be limited of what we can say or not because of the sensitivity of it. Would that be accurate? Okay. Information and technology. Anybody got any questions? Moving on to page 16, legal. HR, health and wellness. Bottom of page 16, police and drug, impound and equipment fund. Any questions there? Moving right along, insurance fund. Tom, you got anything to add with this? Garbage fund, we kind of tipped on that one already. Motor fuel tax fund, pretty balanced. Revenue over and under expenditures on the TIFs. Scott, is anybody got any questions on any of these 4 or 5 TIF districts that Scott can maybe help us with? Downtown, the mall, the MVP, Midwest. Any questions on TIFs? We'll move on to revenues for expenditures for utility funds first. Pretty much right on line from last year. Kevin, do you expect up, down? What are you anticipating?
Depending on the timing of some of the new customers, it should be up slightly. And then the following year, there should be a fairly significant bump.
Water sales? Anybody have any questions there? Operating income. Non-operating income.
Was that question on income from investments that basically got cut in half? And I think Tracy.
Page 20, utility light enterprise funds, clerk's office. I don't see a lot of it, big jumps there, mainly labor, of course.
I had a question on group insurance. The group insurance dropped. Never heard of insurance dropping. The fourth one down under administrative services.
We pay someone a stipend if they don't take our group insurance, as well as why should a department be penalized if their employee gets family insurance versus single insurance? So I moved all of the group insurance accounts to the admin department. So that's one that I need to move those other values into 65154511. Thank you for finding that.
Administrative services, anybody got anything on that? We're also still on page 20. Power and generation on page 21. Anything you can enlighten us on, Kevin?
Price of purchase power keeps going up, mostly due to transmission fees and other things like that. Our actual costs for energy are pretty stable.
Distribution center, again, costs are going up. That same kind of answer for that. Streets and lighting. Hydro. We're up significantly in hydro, Kevin.
Repair of unit number 3.
That repair, I just want to add something about that repair. That is the repair that was denied by our insurance companies. I am still not over that. I believe that we should find, I know at one point we hired a law firm to deal with Huntsman on some old claims. I still think we need to file something to see if we can get some of that money back. But that is where that part of that $1 million is actually $878,000 that we had to pay out for that claim.
Page 22. WTP, WWTP. Anybody got any questions in there?
That's R&M, yeah, that's just, I can't answer that.
Water distribution, water disposal. Fiber. Trucks and vehicles, still on page 22. Page 23, bonds and interest. Anyone got any questions on that? I think we kind of covered that a little bit, didn't we? Huh? Page 23 at the top, bonds and interest. Can move on. This one is pretty much on Kevin's line. Plant, equipment, and infrastructure. As you can see, new equipment, 1.5 million. Sewer separation, 2.2. The trunk line sewer, which is, we've received for, I believe, 2 million from the state, 2 million from the federal. Our expenditure from that will be 2 million. So it's a $6 million project that's gonna cost the city of Peru 2 million. What else is in here? Well, $1 million for the water tank painting. I mean, it's a significant jump. You're looking at about a $10 million jump right there. Between from actual audited 2024, now year to date, we're at 8.6. So how much more we got left to come on that? One more month? Or we're pretty much done?
I don't anticipate there's going to be anything more added to the 8.7 because those invoices should have all come through.
But the sewer separation, the new equipment, and that's hydro, right, Kevin? The 1.5? No?
That's a combination of things. And a couple of those things I talked to Tracy about were actually in the wrong bucket. They should have actually been in, instead of new equipment, they should have been in system upgrades. There was one line item there for $480,000 that should have been into system upgrades because it's reconductoring the 34.5 from Plank Road down to Water Street. And we did it, I originally put it in the wrong bucket. And then we didn't catch it until it was too late. So there's that one. Then there's also another one that was in there that should not have been, which was
These are just both in the wrong categories. We still need these things, but they
correct.
need to be
They'll net
reassigned.
out. They'll net out the
they'll net
same.
out.
Yeah. But it was just to point out that they're actually system upgrades, right? Oh, are they? Okay, I'm looking, I guess the spreadsheet I'm looking at still hasn't been done. Okay.
Anybody have any questions for plant equipment and infrastructure? Depreciation. Page 24, guaranteed lights, expenses, water revenue, landfill. I personally didn't have anything on this page. Anybody else have anything for page 24?
That,
Whoop.
the depreciation, by the way, is just an estimate based on the budget. I still have that to do yet for the audit. All the depreciation has to be figured and booked. It's a total manual process with every asset that we have on a different line of Excel. And then I have to calculate depreciation that way.
Sorry, I moved too quickly on that one. Page 24, we're all good, I believe. Landfill, pretty basic, Jeff. Yeah. Airport, page 25. Anybody have anything on here? Operating expenses and income.
About 6 or about 8 lines down. I'm pretty sure that's for.
Yeah, I'm not gonna
for-
speak for Eric, but I'm sure Mike Perry can probably give a better description. I think that's for the, for Casey's services, and that's to do with the, Division of Aeronautics, but I'll let Mike speak on behalf of that.
Yeah, it would be Casey's design and, phase 3 inspection. It has to be certified inspector with all those proper paperwork. So whatever work is going on, that would include both Casey and, Casey contract. Correct. And that's one of those ones where you've probably been through this, but you're expending everything, and then, I don't know if this year you're ending to get 90 or 95% back, and typically your local share is 5 or 10%.
There's in the airport income, $82,000 for a grant. And then you'll see down further, you have new equipment at 85. Jeff, that is the new tractor, correct?
Tractor and Batwing.
Okay. Have we received that yet?
I
or-
haven't, no, I haven't talked to Eric. Eric was putting in for it, so I'm not sure where he's at on it.
But we do have a revenue of 82,000 in the grant, and then the expenditure will be 85 for a brand new, well-needed piece of equipment for the airport, cutting the grass.
Yep.
Anything else on airport, anyone? Police pension trust fund, police fire pension trust fund.
Quick question on, pension fund. We used to give $1 million there. Transfer from general fund, Tracy? Could you explain what happened to that? Why we don't do that anymore?
Sure.
All right, so prior to the pension funds being combined by downstate, the city council years ago, to get caught up on our police pension fund, we were allocating an extra $1 million out of the general fund to strengthen our police and fire pensions. Once the merger came to be, that $1 million was stopped and was left in the general fund. Okay?
So in other words, as of that year, we increased their general fund by $1 million
Yes.
from that.
And that was 2 years ago, 3 years? Yeah.
I apologize, I do not have the percentages of where we're at on these fire, or on police. Jeff, Tom, do you have any idea where we're at? I apologize, I don't have that.
The police pension fund is funded at 51% as of, I think, the end of the year, last year, which by all means is one of the highest funded funds in downstate. Because they take all of Peru's money and it's still segregated, but combined. So when you look at Peru's numbers, we're at 51%. 31?
I think it's dead. And the fire is at 89%.
So Tom, you're saying that Peru is 51%. That's one of the highest going right now.
In the state, yes.
That's incredible. That's great.
I don't know what the other fire ones are, but that's the reason why we changed. If you recall, we used to do an even allocation of the taxes, and then we do more for police now than fire. Right, I'm talking about the property tax levy.
Any other questions on the page 26? Moving on to page 27. I'll be honest, these last two pages are more of Tracy's expertise than mine. We've been going over these 2 pages for months, I would say, at least, so I can better understand them myself. If anybody has any questions with these 2 pages. Like I said, 2024, we had budgeted expenses of 73.9 million. This year, we're right now on paper, 75.1. That's a $1.2 million increase over last year. You know, big projects, trunk line, hydro, water tank, sewer separation, cost going up. I mean, we're projecting this top part is more, I understand it better than anything, is we're estimating $63 million in revenue, and we're estimating $58 million in expenses, surplus of $4 million. Now, this is where I'm going to defer to Tracy in the second part of page 28, because she explained it to me many, many times, and I've understand it now more than I have in the past, but it's still kind of complicated to understand. So I'm gonna let Tracy explain this second half.
So it's the difference of accounting principle between government accounting and enterprise fund accounting. Our government fund, all of our capital expenditures get expensed when the project is done. A government fund does not depreciate. It is not an accrual-based accounting, which is what you find with the utility fund and other enterprise funds. It's a modified accrual basis. Some of it is cash basis, some of it is accrual basis, but there is no depreciation of assets. I still have to keep a detailed list of every asset that we have in the general fund, and I still have to calculate depreciation and provide that to the auditors, but it is not booked to the general ledger, and there is no value of depreciation. You build a police station, that 17 million got expensed over the 2 years in which it was built. Now, you build something like the substation costs, you build something for an enterprise fund in the utility fund, that is an asset that gets capitalized. It does not get expensed. It gets expensed over its useful life through depreciation. Therefore, when you're looking at expenditures of 58 million, that includes any capital projects for the general fund, but it excludes capital projects for enterprise funds. So that is why you have to go beneath and you see enterprise funds, plant, equipment, inventory, and infrastructure investment. That is separate than our operating budget. It's difficult somewhat to combine government funds with enterprise funds and come up with a citywide total. You will find that that really doesn't even exist in the audit. It's based on your government funds and your enterprise type of funds, and then your trust funds, debt service fund, all funds are looked at separately. For our budget purpose, we only really hone in on our two major funds, the general fund and the utility fund. And this does also exclude pensions, but you'll see at the bottom, we are estimating a total of $14.8 million in capital projects. You can see we have grants coming in $3 million. The difference again is a grant is included in revenue for government funds. A grant is excluded in revenue for enterprise funds. So that is why that is separate. So your 58 million needs to add in your cash for your grants. Well, you're adding in your infrastructure to get to the 75. You also have to include your debt repayment. Again, the same type of accounting procedures. The debt payment for the police station is included as an expenditure within the police department's expenditure. Any debt payment related to an enterprise fund, they don't pay for as an expenditure. It's in your balance sheet. So there's a different methodology of accounting for that. But all in all, you'll see that total revenue, which is the 66 million, is nothing more than our revenues of 63, adding in your grants. That's where the 66 million comes from. Your expenditures is the 58 million, adding in the capital expenditures for enterprise funds of 14.8, adding in your debt repayments of 1.5, that's where the 75 million comes from. So in that, you can see that we have a cash deficit of 8.8 million. Of that, we are going to fund that with infrastructure and reserves of 4.8 million. That goes back to your question, Jim. What are those interfund transfers? The 4.852 includes $1 million that we're transferring between funds for the infrastructure tank painting. We've got 850,000 for the ECAS expansion. We've got 1.2 million that we will be drawing from motel tax to cover the OSLAD excess. Over and above that grant, we will be drawing 500,000 for the budgeted ITEP bridge, and we will be drawing from infrastructure for 1.5 million for the budgeted Plank Road costs. That is where your 4.8 million is coming from. So we are at a deficit of 3.9 million currently with this budget.
Tracy, have we ever used our emergency reserves?
We have not. Our reserves right now, and to,
The reason I'm asking that question is when we had a fire at the hydro and we had catastrophic failure of a turbine, why wouldn't that classify as an emergency and use those funds and not stress some of the other?
We certainly can. The ordinance for the emergency reserves relating to hydro says up to 10 million. So we generally have been putting it into looking at total reserves. So it's like you can take it from what you have in emergency reserves, but we don't have that quantified. The ordinance is just up to 10 million.
My thought is that it would certainly be easier to pay that back over time, especially if you got insurance claims and stuff that's going to be coming later on. Just a question I had, why we've never used it, because that would certainly, qualify in my mind as an emergency.
Yes. Yes. Total utility fund reserves is anything that we consider restricted. So we have CDs that we classify as self-insurance reserve, and we have CDs that we classify as operating reserves. But ultimately, yes, don't really single them out and take from that specific bucket. It is a overall reserve. We have not, for the utility fund, we have been in compliance, but we have, which is another reason why it's kind of silly to have an ordinance for 180 days. For the general fund, we've never been in compliance. We've never had an adequate reserve to be compliant with that ordinance.
Okay, thank you.
Well, that kind of finishes up page 28. Is there any more questions on that page? Which is probably the
Real-
most important page. Andy?
Real quick, Tracy, you mentioned the hotel motel tax. That's tied into the OSLED grant, is that correct?
Yes.
And that's spoken,
And also the ITEP bridge, all of that's being funded from motel tax.
that's for the fiscal 2025, 26,
This is fiscal 26.
fiscal 26, correct?
Yes, and unfortunately with the increases in those projects, that's increasing what we need to take. So it's even using our fiscal 26 revenue relating to that. And we are, I don't want to get into 2025 actual results, but unfortunately we did not meet our budget for hotel motel tax.
I know Eric's not here, maybe you can help with this, Tracy, but do you think, for instance, that bridge project, do you think that bridge project could go into 27? Fiscal 26?
Absolutely, there's only 500,000 budgeted for fiscal 26, and it's going to be over 3 million.
Yeah. Mike, I believe Eric told us that that project is gonna take 2 to 2.5 years to finish, so.
Just to clarify on the bridge, the bridge was a $3 million grant. And our obligation is 1 million. Our obligation, she just told you, is gonna be over $3 million. City of Peru will pay $3 million and the grant will be $3 million for the bridge. I just wanna make sure everybody understands that. It's not 75, 25%. We will, and that doesn't even include some expenditures that haven't been added in yet, like lighting and things like that.
And that's not a final figure because we are doing some value engineering on that right now.
Yeah, I believe Eric's really working hard on getting some of those costs down, which is
Correct.
great. I mean, like I said, it's
Yeah,
a,
let's not speculate because that's throwing those figures out is irresponsible at this point.
Yeah, that's correct, I think.
well, we have already spent $800,000 on that project. So, look, with engineering and cost and acquire property, things like that, so.
But when it's finished, we'll have a safe crossing, people. That's very important.
It's a very positive impact, very great project for our community, but it's like anything else, it's gonna be expensive. But yeah, I'm still 110% behind the project, yeah, or Mike, absolutely. I think the community's it's well received, but I just wanna make sure everybody is aware that, it is gonna be it's costly project to our city. Anybody else have anything for questions for the last page of 28? Or anybody would like to talk about any other thing that we might have missed over?
I don't have a question. I don't know how we could have possibly missed anything in 2.5 hours. I just wanted to say, Tracy, I know at times, and all of the other people sitting down there, it felt like there were daggers getting thrown your way. I wanted to let you guys know that I don't feel that was the case here, and if you do feel that, I'm sorry. But I do think, and thank you guys for explaining the things you explained tonight. I agree with Jim, and I've made this comment to several people up here. There's a lot of times in my first 4 years here, I felt like things came to us that we voted on that I thought I understood and found out afterwards I might not have understood them clearly. So giving us the chance to really understand how the budget came together, I know I myself appreciated that, and I appreciate the time you guys put into this, so thank you.
I also want to thank you, Tracy. I know sometimes it does sound like everybody's attacking, but actually it's, whether it's attacking or not, it's just, we've got to get answers. And we have to ask questions to get answers. And this is a complicated thing. And of all my years sitting up here, I can't remember another time that we had a more detailed budget hearing than this one. This has been by far the best budget hearing I've ever had.
And I'd like to second that. In fact, I think this should be the template going forward. Like every year, we should have this 2.5-hour meeting. And I'd like to thank Tracy as well. Very informative. I think the best part is that we are conservative with our revenue estimates, but I thought maybe we were a little too conservative. So I was really glad to see the $400,000 put back into the streets program, and thanks for that.
I'd like to thank Tracy also. Tracy, some of your explanations are the epitome of why we didn't go into accounting. It's can get quite complicated at times, and I think you do a great job. So thank you.
I'll just follow up. The department heads were asked to look at their budgets and make cuts, and they all came back with cuts to their budgets. Responsible and respectful to everybody in their departments, and we addressed it here tonight. And everybody, on an open floor, and had anybody had any questions, they got their answers, and I thought it went really well. And I commend everyone. And I think we should next year do the same thing. Go line by line. If any questions or any answers that need to be, handled, do it at that time.
I should have spoke up before. Thank you for some of those comments. I do want to maybe talk a little bit about the 13% cut from a month ago, and I kind of want to apologize that I did not stop that. I wanted to reiterate why that was done. It was done because of a negative cash flow. We don't want to go into debt, but yet we want to continue to grow our city. And as a result, I would like to take your attention to page 6 one more time. Our capital assets, as you can see, the past 4 years were 4.5 million, 7.8 million, audited 24, 4.5 million. This is just utility fund. This year we're at 8.7 million. If you recall from our budget last year, we budgeted for the utility fund alone 18.3 million. I stated in my presentation, as well as in the fiscal 25 packet, a combination of our healthy reserves, grant proceeds, and a potential bond issuance if necessary will cover the negative cash flow that will result from these capital projects. We budgeted $18.3 million. We came in at $8.7 million. Throughout fiscal 25, thank goodness it was to our favor, but I'm managing cash flow for capital projects that were reduced by $10 million. Now this year, we've budgeted 14.5. I need to be able to have, to your point, Mike, when you were talking about investment income, I have to be able to know what's coming in millions of dollars and have cash available. I have to have that cash in millions of dollars tied up, making the most we can make and keeping the littlest amount liquid so we can maximize our investment income. I have to answer to the auditors and explain why our budget was cut by over $10 million for fiscal 25. This is fiscal 26. I am relying on other departments to tell me what they need, to tell me what they have to spend. One of the biggest challenges is we are not a teamwork when it comes to the money being spent on capital projects and growth and what is needed for the city and the money that is needed each department to stay operational. We have to bring that together. We're competing against ourselves. It feels as if doing these budgets, and this was my third budget, haven't done them forever, but doing these budgets, I feel a competition between what is needed in capital and what big projects we have to do and what is needed to sustain operations for each department. That is one of the biggest challenges. The second biggest challenge is cash flow. Are we really going to do 14.5? That doesn't even include the general fund. The general fund is budgeted another $5.1 million of capital projects. Okay, we're talking $21 million. That in the past 4 years, this is after the police station, in the past 4 years, we have spent $40 million from our checkbook, with only cash going down $5 million and debt going down $2.5 million. It's actually pretty impressive, but we can't sustain this. So there has to be a point where, yes, operations needs to tighten the belt. All departments need to do that, but it shouldn't be at the expense of capital improvements and growing, because we still need the foundation for our operations and servicing our community. We can't just grow it without providing the basics. And it still feels like a competition. We need long-term capital and long-term cash planning. I don't know if anybody from the media is here, but Peru is not in a financial crisis, but if we don't address long-term planning, we will be in a financial crisis. We can't stop what's already in motion, so I'm apologizing for the 13% cut, because that was based on, hey, we've got this negative cash flow. This negative cash flow exceeds our cash reserves. Is this the route you want to take? I could have stood up there and done the same presentation I did for the past 2 years and just sold it, but we would have had to have bonded out, and probably in about 14 months, we would have been in an emergent situation. So we really do need to have open communication between departments. We need to come together in our capital growth and our operations. We can't stop what's already in motion, so we can't put a brake on this fiscal 26 budget. But fiscal 27 and fiscal 28 cannot have over $20 million of capital spending in addition to sustaining our operational department foundations. So I do want to mention cash in general. I just said we spent in the past 4 years $40 million on capital projects. Our cash only came down $5 million, but our cash did come down $5 million. It's still a reality we have to face, that in 4 years, if our cash comes down $5 million, right now, we're not broke. We have $27 million, but if we don't do long-term capital planning, in 10 years, we could be. So back to this figure, budget 2026 has negative cash flow in the utility fund of $10 million. We have enough in reserves to cover that. I know we don't want to have to borrow money, but there's going to be a time when we're going to have to borrow money if we want to sustain that growth. So we have to give and take, and that's a long-term plan. Sorry, I know this got wordy. I know this is way too long. But we are spending $8 million of reserves for fiscal 26. don't want it to be a surprise, that's the budget. We have to do a better job of really staying on it. A lot of expenses hit in the last, but unfortunately, we're not done because the next phase is looking at our fiscal 25 actuals. We have a few departments that are over budget. We've got budget amendments to make. This is a projection. We can't go over this or you could be in trouble. But it is a projection. What actually matters is our actual results. And we're going down now to start, we're in the middle of 3 audits and fiscal 25 is wrapped up, but I still have a lot of work to do with the audit on that. I think we're going to come out just fine because of all of our budget amendments. I just don't want there to be any surprises. But what I feel sometimes is that the more transparent I am, the worse it is. I can tell you that there's other neighboring cities who posted their budgets not until well into the end of July. We try to get ours done right away, and there's other municipalities that post a $5 million deficit, and it's not on the front page of the paper. Let's not compete with ourselves. Let's work together and get this accomplished.
Tracy, we had discussed many times about budget reforecasting, monthly meetings, whatever. That's something that could keep us from, getting into trouble. And I haven't heard any more about it.
Every 4 months in quarterlies, and not quarterlies, but every 4 months. I did give everyone their reports where we were at, and we were right around 67% when we needed to be. We are within budget with just a few departments, and it's not materially off. So we are going to do that to catch it at that first period when we should be 33% into our budget, and the next period there are, like payroll, it does take an additional month to get past that, to get an accurate read. We do it for Adam because he has monthly meetings. He is provided with a report every month of where he is at actual to budget. I wish we had had a better system because a lot of it is manual, but we will do that for every department. At the end of December would be our first term. Our second term at the end of August is our first 4-month term. At the end of December will be our second 4-month term. And then year end gets all convoluted with the budget. So then we haven't looked at it. So we have to take time to do that.
Do you feel that every 4 months is enough? Or should it be more frequent?
I do because I think it should be more frequent. The reason why it's difficult is because our insurance, we book that in our utility billing. One thing that we did in order to find an efficiency was because utility billing within the city is all internal. All we're doing is expensing our departments and taking the revenue in. The billing gets done automatically, but we literally write checks to ourselves. And we only write that check to ourselves every 4 months because, as you know, we have a stack of city bills like this that we were doing every month. So the determination was made, we'll only pay those every 4 months, and we do the same thing with insurance. So that's why I'm basing that on a 4-month basis, is because we did a lot of things to make the accounts payable side of it more efficient. And we have always managed to finance as 3 people when it comes to paying the bills. But I can tell you that our invoice load has increased 50% plus. So we looked at ways where we could reduce our monthly invoice processing, and anything internal, we do it every 4 months in order just to try to lessen that, if that makes sense.
I'll piggyback on a couple things she said. Jim, we've talked about doing these quarterlies. Well, we're definitely going to do them. Tracy and I went back and forth on this, and I recommended 3, and we went back and forth. In a perfect world, I'd like to see it done every month, like Parks and Rec. You go to a Parks and Rec meeting, Bob, you get, here it is, and every percentage. But the cost and the time involved with every department doing that, it's just not feasible. We will definitely do this every 4. I would like
Well-
to see it every 3, like you're saying, but it's just not feasible.
Yeah, I think, at the very least quarterly is, acceptable, but I realize with 9 department heads, it's hard to, herd all the cats to, get to a meeting, but
And I'm going to brainstorm some other ways to look at it. I mean, we can look at it as don't look at your budget in total, look at all your line items, but don't look at insurance or utilities. So we'll figure it out.
You know, and again, I'd like to piggyback a few things that Tracy said in her final speech here was, these are cuts. If you say that, we're making budget cuts, I see them as budget adjustments. Okay, we're still spending more this year than we did last year. Our debt went down by $4 million, created no new debt. Like I said, this is just something that we're projecting. I'm projecting revenues to be down. Hope I'm wrong. If we're wrong, we'll be fine, and then some. But anybody else have any other questions? Any statements, comments? Anybody? Tom?
Well, my only statement is this. Tracy, you did a job. Thank you. I applaud everything you've done. Department heads, again, thank you for the work you've done. I know it wasn't easy. To my colleagues up here, the budget process is always a work in progress. Always will be. And you listen to how we're on a negative cash flow. And it brings up a sore subject, and our revenues are not keeping up with our expenses. The more we take out of our CDs to pay bills, lowers that investment income, which makes the whole budget a much harder process. So it brings us to the fact that we will have to look seriously at adjusting the revenues that the city brings in, whether it be water and electric, whether it be other fees, or anything like that. Those are the things that in any business, the mayor said it earlier, taxes went up. Do I raise my revenue or cut my expenses? Our expenses are not going to go down. If you look at the budget, one of the most driving largest expense is labor. And it's not going to stop. So we do have to look at all of the whole package. And the package is we have to look at our revenues next. So I'll be the bearer of bad news. It will be a discussion coming, and I think it's something we need to do. With that being said, thank you again for all your hard work. I know it was stressful, and hopefully we're done, and next year be an easier process. Thank you.
Anybody else? Alderman Teeman, Alderman Edgecombe?
I'm ready, John. I think we keep this forward.
Finance will have nothing, Your Honor.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything I can say that hasn't already been said. I think this was very informative. I hope everybody that's been watching got a lot out of it and isn't actually just falling asleep at their computer.
Anything else? That's it. We can, I need a motion to close the public hearing for June 9, 2025.
So moved.
All in favor? All opposed? Motion carried. Budget meeting adjourned. We will take 5 minutes for a restroom break, and then we'll open up our committee of the whole meeting.